But the WNBA All-Star Game ratings have come out, and all I could think of right off the bat was 4 little letters. F-A-F-O. F around and find out. You bleep around and find out what this league looks like without Caitlin Clark being involved in your biggest events.
The New York Liberty is playing the best style of basketball. They are playing the best basketball currently in the WNBA. And when they just had a nationally televised game on ESPN against the Chicago Sky, against Angel Reese, who was one of the biggest names in the WNBA, they had around 600,000 viewers, which is so low. You cannot make fans watch what they don't want to watch. But all we heard last year is if the fans were only watching the Indiana Fever, only watching games Caitlin Clark was playing in, then they weren't real fans and they didn't like basketball. And you just had so much media and WNBA personalities and even players just shunning the new fan.
Fever Sky tickets dropped 71% on TickPick after Caitlin Clark injury. The get-in price for the Chicago Sky versus Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever game was $86. After Caitlin Clark's injury announcement is now down to $25. And you Angel Reese fangirls will still believe and think that Angel Reese is the reason why people are watching the WNBA. Since y'all want to make it about race, this white girl over here is the reason why fans are tuning in to watch the WNBA.
But the TV ratings were only the digital shadow of the problem. The real financial bleeding was happening inside arenas, where fans were voting with their wallets. The most brutal example came from a scheduled matchup between the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky before Caitlin Clark's injury. The cheapest ticket in the building was going for $86. The moment her injury was announced, that same seat crashed to $25, a staggering 71% drop overnight. That's not speculation, that's hard evidence. The so-called Caitlin Clark effect wasn't hype, it was measurable economics. And without her on the floor, the market didn't just cool off, it evaporated. The All-Star Game was only the tip of the iceberg. The WNBA's so-called Premier Showcase managed just over 2 million viewers, a staggering flop that confirmed the league's worst fears. But the problem runs much deeper. The Indiana Fever's own TV ratings have cratered, dropping more than 53% since Caitlin Clark has been sidelined. This isn't just a decline, it's a mass exodus of the casual fan base. The lights didn't simply dim on the league, they were switched off completely by millions of remotes, leaving the WNBA in a darkness of its own creation. 40% collapse. That's the brutal number staring the WNBA in the face after its All-Star Game ratings came out. This isn't just a dip, it's a free fall off a cliff. To put it in perspective, the league's premier event of the year drew fewer viewers than a regular season game with Caitlin Clark. The message couldn't be clearer, fans tune in when the star is on the floor. The league was warned about what might happen if it pushed its biggest attraction to the sidelines, and now the fallout is here. The financial bleeding has only just started, and what we're watching is the story of a collapse that could have been avoided.
You see, this is exactly what we were talking about. WNBA All-Star ratings are in for 2025, and it is down 40%. 40% from last year. That's bad. That is really bad. We already watched the ticket prices drop by more than 50% because Caitlin Clark was not playing. This is bad news for the WNBA.
So check this out. The game on June 7th, the tickets were originally $86. Same seats, now $25. After her injury announcement, 71% drop in price. Over 71% drop in price. Because she's not going to be in the game.
So how did the league walk itself straight into this disaster? It wasn't just Clark's injury. This collapse was fueled by a self-inflicted wound that had been brewing all season. 4 months, a strange narrative was pushed, by some players and even certain media voices, that the millions of new fans showing up weren't real fans, because they only came to watch Caitlin Clark. Instead of embracing the tidal wave of fresh attention, they tried to gatekeep it. They mocked, dismissed, and alienated the very people filling arenas and smashing viewership records. And now, the league is left staring at the empty seats those so-called fake fans once occupied, asking where everyone went. The truth is simple. They went where they felt welcome.
If you consult the graph that I've just posted here, you'll see that nobody is watching the WNBA. That's the reason why the WNBA isn't making... Oh, sorry, I missed a few of them. So this is the reason why the WNBA isn't making any money, and they're not getting paid. It gets worse.
While the league was busy pushing fans away, an even bigger problem was unfolding on the court. Its stars were dropping like dominoes. Clark was the first, but she wasn't the last. Angel Reese went down soon after, followed by Sydney Colson, and then Lexi Hull in a play that looked entirely preventable. At a certain point, it stopped looking like bad luck and started resembling a disturbing trend. More and more voices are pointing to one culprit: the officiating. This season, refereeing has been called sloppy at best and reckless at worst. Missed calls, ignored fouls, and unchecked physicality are leaving players exposed and at risk.
Given Clark's unprecedented star power, her being confined to the Fever's Gainbridge Fieldhouse sidelines was always going to impact ratings, and she was actually there. It was her team. And the fans sent a clear message.
The person who really should get all the blame is Kathy Engelberg. Yes, this is Kathy Engelberg's doing. You know why? Because she has incompetent referee.
And what exactly is left on the floor? A hollow product that feels more like a preseason scrimmage than a primetime showcase. With the marquee names out, the spark is gone. Arenas sit half empty, where the sound of a lone basketball bouncing echoes louder than the cheers. The broadcasts feel flat. Commentators straining to hype up methodical, low-scoring play that simply doesn't capture the audience. It's the sports equivalent of buying tickets to see a headlining band, only to find the roadie has taken the stage with an unplugged guitar. Right now, the WNBA isn't selling excitement, it's selling a ghost of what could be.
So lads, the All-Star ratings were confirmed, and I have to say, not ideal. Not ideal for the WNBA, and I'll take a look. So, the WNBA All-Star Game had 2.19 million viewers. Like, we can't forget last year peaked at over 4 million. This, in fact, is less viewership than an average Caitlin Clark game.
This collapse shines a spotlight on a flaw the league can't ignore. When an NBA icon like LeBron James or Steph Curry goes down, the league doesn't shatter. The storylines keep moving, rivalries still simmer, and a deep bench of stars steps forward. That's the strength of a system built over decades. The WNBA, by contrast, gambled its entire resurgence on one or two breakout personalities. Instead of building a foundation, it built a fragile showcase, an attraction balanced on a single card. The moment that card was pulled, the whole structure wobbled.
This should be a straight up wake up call. With the ticket prices dropping, and now you see the show, the ratings fell tremendously, and it was an awful game. So that large percent of people who did not watch, they probably had a better Saturday than everybody else. We just got to be real.
It's not just the on-court product that's collapsing. The league's entire marketing machine looks broken. Broadcasters sound stuck in neutral, clinging to ghosts of the past. Instead of pivoting to spotlight the players still grinding every night, they keep looping highlight reels of the stars who aren't even on the floor. You can almost hear the strain in their voices as they try to hype a game missing its main characters. In any other pro league, this would be the moment to aggressively elevate the next tier of talent. But the WNBA feels paralyzed, hoping yesterday's headlines will somehow sell tonight's tickets. In reality, it's a strategy that doesn't inspire. It just reminds fans of exactly what they've lost.
In the three-point contest or the All-Star game, both of which she was planning to do because of a groin injury. This goes right to the Indiana Fever management and leadership as well. Better know whatever consequences the WNBA suffers from Caitlin Clark not being around, as will you.
The silence across social media says it all. Not long ago, the WNBA had a steady flow of viral highlights, fiery debates, and meme-worthy moments flooding timelines. Now, it's almost empty. The energy that once fueled the online conversation has disappeared. Engagement on official pages has plummeted, and the narrative has shifted from excitement to frustration. Fans complain about inconsistent officiating, slow-paced games, and the league's dramatic downturn. For brands, this is a nightmare. They don't just buy ad space, they buy cultural relevance. Right now, the WNBA isn't delivering either. Instead of being the talk of the internet, it feels like a deserted arena in the digital world, where the only thing left are faint reminders of when the buzz was at its peak.
I'm not going to ignore, nor am I going to take my eyes off of what transpires with the WNBA over the next 2 weeks while Caitlin Clark is out with the quad strain.
All of this is steering the WNBA toward its worst-case scenario, a postseason that barely registers outside of the most dedicated fans. The nightmare isn't just losing games or revenue, it's reaching the championship stage, the very peak of the sport, and having the world barely notice. Picture a trophy raised in front of rows of empty seats, the supposed climax of the season playing out more like a forgotten exhibition. That's the danger now, not just financial loss, but cultural invisibility. A title that should cement legacies could instead vanish into silence, like a tree collapsing in the woods with no one around to hear it.
And it was also reported that the Indiana Fever television viewership is also down over 53%. Now, I know a lot of us were expecting some sort of dip since Caitlin Clark has been out with injury, but I don't think all of us were expecting the entire viewership of the entire WNBA to be down.
In a crisis this severe, the spotlight inevitably shifts upward, straight to league leadership. The uncomfortable question is unavoidable. Where is the accountability? Commissioner Cathy Engelbert has presided over a season in which the WNBA's most valuable star wasn't just sidelined, but inadequately protected from the start. The officiating mess falls squarely under her authority. Her office failed to enforce consistent standards to keep players safe, and when injuries mounted, it failed to adapt or salvage the product. What should have been a season of unprecedented growth instead unraveled into chaos. At best, it was negligence. At worst, it was leadership standing by as the house caught fire, without ever reaching for the extinguisher.
So lads, this is very, very concerning if you're the WNBA coming into the CBA. It is the worst possible thing that can happen, is the ratings coming out. It is the worst possible thing because you cannot work on the assumption anymore that the league's TV deal is going up. You cannot work on that assumption because the ratings are down over 50%. Fever games are down 53% with Clark out, and it's only national televised games.
And if all of this weren't already catastrophic, the timing has made it lethal. The WNBA is walking straight into negotiations for its next media rights deal, the single most important financial moment in its history. This was supposed to be their billion-dollar payday, fueled by the unprecedented surge of the Caitlin Clark effect. They were holding the cards of a lifetime, a royal flush, but now? The ratings collapse has left them empty-handed. Networks don't negotiate off hype, they negotiate off numbers. And the numbers tell a devastating story. That billion-dollar dream has likely gone up in smoke, replaced with a deal that could cripple the league's growth for the next decade. The WNBA now stands at a terrifying crossroads. The seats are empty, the screens are dark, and the excitement has evaporated. They gambled that the league was bigger than one player, and lost on every front. They ignored the warnings, alienated the new fans who were their lifeline, and failed to protect the very stars who pulled them out of irrelevance. The question isn't whether the league can limp to the finish line of this season. It's whether the millions who showed up for a once-in-a-generation phenomenon will ever return. Because once that magic disappears, once you betray the trust of your audience, history is clear. It almost never comes back.